So here's today's Reddit tale. My stepdaughter once looked me in the eye, let out a mocking laugh, and said, "You're just a wallet." Like I was some clueless idiot for believing I was part of her family. "My real dad is way better than you," she added. I didn't say a word. Just gave a quiet nod, and stopped footing the bill from that day forward. Funny thing is, the moment she had to rely on her deadbeat biological father for rent money, she wound up in tears, calling and begging me instead. Look, I never walked into this thinking Chloe would see me as her dad right away. When I married Rachel, I knew I was stepping into a tricky situation. She had a daughter from a previous relationship, and I told myself I was all in, for both of them. I didn't hesitate to love them. I knew blended families came with bumps, awkward silences, slow-growing trust, misunderstandings. That was expected. But what I didn't expect was to be treated like a human ATM. From the start, once Rachel and I got serious, I laid it all out. I wasn't just committing to her. I was choosing Chloe too. I covered her school tuition, took her to and from practice, taught her how to drive. I even started setting money aside to help with college. I showed up at every school event, every game, every recital. I was always there. Her real dad? Never sent so much as a birthday card. Not a single call during the holidays. Didn't contribute a cent in child support. But somehow, Chloe still held him up like he was some kind of hero. I kept telling myself that maybe it was just that blind love kids have for their biological parents. I hoped, maybe someday, she'd realize who was actually there for her. But with each passing year, that hope got dimmer. Chloe never passed up an opportunity to remind me I wasn't her real dad. I'd ask her to help out around the house. "You're not my dad, don't boss me around." I'd try to offer her advice. "I'll ask my real dad, thanks." And if I said no to something, she'd run straight to Rachel. And like clockwork, Rachel would take her side. "She's just being a teenager, honey. Don't take it personally, she's still adjusting." I kept hearing it. "It's just a phase, she'll outgrow it." But the years rolled by. And Chloe never changed. And Rachel? She always had a reason, an excuse, to brush it off. One night, I sat down with her and tried to talk. "Rachel, she treats me like I'm a stranger. I've done everything I can, and she still won't see me as a father figure." Rachel gave a heavy sigh. "She doesn't mean it, Mark. She's just struggling. Her real dad wasn't around, and that left scars." That word stuck with me. Real. I exhaled, slowly. "I get it. But I can't keep pouring everything I have into someone who gives me nothing back. I'm worn out." Rachel frowned a little. "She loves you, in her own way." I looked at her carefully. "Are you sure about that?" There was this long pause. For the first time, she didn't jump to answer. And that's when something awful crossed my mind, something I had never wanted to consider before. What if Rachel hadn't married me out of love, but because she needed someone to help raise and support Chloe? I tried to shake the thought. But it stuck. Then one random afternoon, it all came crashing down. I had come home from work early, walked past Chloe's room, and heard her laughing with her friends. And then came the gut punch. "No, he's not my real dad. He's just a wallet." Silence. Then another girl's voice giggling. "Damn girl." Chloe kept going, totally unaware I was standing just outside her door. "I don't even know why he tries so hard. My real dad's way cooler. Once I move out, I'm never talking to him again." More laughter. Cold. Mean. Thoughtless. I felt sick. Like I'd been kicked in the chest. I turned and walked away, not because I didn't want to confront her. Oh, believe me, I wanted to. But at that moment, it hit me hard. What would even be the point? I had given so much. My time, my money, my heart. And in her eyes? I was nothing but a bank card. I walked straight to the kitchen, where Rachel was rinsing dishes. My voice came out steady, too steady. "I just overheard Chloe call me just a wallet in front of her friends." Rachel spun around, eyes wide. "What? No. She wouldn't say that." "She did," I said, cutting her off. And then, for the first time, I saw something on Rachel's face. Guilt. Clear as day. She opened her mouth, probably gearing up for another excuse. But I was finished with excuses. "I've taken care of her for years. And she's already planning to cut me off the second she doesn't need me." Rachel didn't meet my eyes. She looked away. Again. She's just a kid. I stared at her. And that makes this okay? No response. And you know what? That silence said everything. The fact that Rachel didn't defend me, that she didn't even deny what Chloe said, that was all the confirmation I needed. Rachel knew Chloe only saw me as a source of money. And instead of stepping in and setting her straight, she let it go on. Probably even encouraged it. And in that moment, something dark and heavy settled into my gut. Maybe it wasn't just Chloe who saw me as a walking wallet. Looking back now, I started seeing all the little warning signs I brushed off over the years. Rachel never hesitated when it came to spending my money. But the moment I brought up Chloe getting a part-time job, she shut it down quick. Anytime I tried to set limits or talk about money, she'd guilt-trip me. Not once did she try to. That thought, it hit me like a punch to the ribs. What if I wasn't family to them at all? What if I was just an investment? A walking, talking financial plan? From that moment on, I pulled back. I stopped going above and beyond for Chloe. I wasn't mean about it. I didn't become some cold-hearted guy. I just quit chasing her approval. Funny part? She didn't even notice. Not for a second. She kept spending like there was no tomorrow. Started asking for a bigger allowance like she was owed it. Said she needed a new car because the one she had was too embarrassing to be seen in. Started dreaming out loud about pricey colleges without the slightest concern over cost. One night at dinner, I suggested she apply for scholarships or maybe look into a part-time job. She actually laughed, right in my face. Why would I do that? That's what you're for. And Rachel, sitting right there next to her, just sighed like Chloe had spilled some juice. Chloe, be nice, she mumbled. That was it. Not. Chloe, that's not okay. Not. Apologize. Just. Be nice. And that's when it really sank in. This wasn't just Chloe's doing. Rachel had allowed this to grow. She stood by and watched it happen. And if I kept biting my tongue, it was never going to stop. So that night I sat her down. You have to stop enabling her, I told her. Rachel frowned. Mark, I've told you, she's just immature. I shook my head slowly. No. She's entitled, Rachel. That's not the same thing. She gave this tired sigh. What do you expect me to do? She's still a teenager. She's figuring herself out. I stared at her hard. No. She's not trying to figure herself out, she already has. She knows exactly how to manipulate this situation. Rachel bit her lip. You're making a bigger deal out of this than it needs to be. I clenched my jaw. Am I? Then tell me, if I lost my job tomorrow and couldn't pay for anything anymore, would you and Chloe still be here? Silence. A long, heavy, guilty silence. She opened her mouth like she was going to answer. Then shut it again. And right then I knew. She couldn't even lie to comfort me. That was all I needed. I made up my mind. No screaming matches. No more begging to be seen or respected. If they wanted me to just be a wallet, fine. Wallet's closed. Let them see how far her, real dad, would go when I stepped out of the picture. That same night, after the talk with Rachel, I made the final decision. No more debates. No more pretending. No more letting myself be used. Chloe had made her feelings clear. I was just a source of money. Fine. I was done being an open bank account. At first, nothing changed, at least not for her. She kept going out with her friends like she always did. Still swiping the credit card I gave her like it was unlimited. Still thinking she had all the control. Then it started. One afternoon, she stormed into the living room, her face bright red and her hands clenched tight. My card got declined, she snapped. Fix it. I didn't even look up from my laptop. No. She blinked, like I'd just spoken a different language. What? Finally, I turned and looked her in the eye. Calm, steady. I cancelled it. She stared at me, confused. Then came the tantrum. Screaming that I was unfair. Selfish. That I was ruining her life. All the usual hits. Rachel came running in, obviously panicked. What's going on? Chloe whipped around, jabbing her finger at me. He cancelled my card. Rachel turned to me, eyes wide with disbelief. Why would you do that? I met her gaze and didn't blink. Because your daughter told her friends I'm just a wallet. So I decided to act like one. And you know what? Wallets don't open themselves. For a second, no one said anything. Rachel shifted awkwardly. Chloe's fists clenched tight. I don't need you, she snapped. My real dad will help me. I gave her a little smirk. Great. Give him a call. The next few days? Chloe walked around like nothing had changed. Told her friends it was all a misunderstanding. Acted like she was just waiting for things to go back to normal. She really thought her biological dad would come through. Then the call happened. I was in the kitchen when I heard her. Dad, I need help with rent. There was a pause. Then I heard his voice, lazy, disinterested, like he'd just woken up. Rent? Kid, I'd barely got enough to cover myself. Chloe's voice cracked. Wait, what? But you said you'd always be there for me. And then came the kicker. He laughed. I was just saying that. You didn't actually believe it, did you? Chloe froze. Pale. Her hands started trembling. You didn't mean that. Listen, kid, I don't got time for this. Ask your stepdad? That's his job, isn't it? And just like that, he hung up. She sat there, phone still in her hand like it had just betrayed her. Her so-called real dad had dropped the mask. Her credit card was gone. Her friends weren't returning her texts anymore. Her little perfect world. It had popped like a bubble. I walked past the kitchen and caught sight of her still clutching the phone, eyes wide and empty. She was finally seeing the truth for what it was. And for the first time in her life, there was no one left to swoop in and save her. Chloe had spent years living in a fantasy. She believed she could treat me like garbage and still get the perks. She thought her biological father was always going to be there in the background. She thought Rachel would always jump in to defend her. Now, that entire illusion was crumbling fast. And Rachel, her strongest shield, was about to realize just how badly she'd let her daughter down. After the call ended, Chloe didn't say a word. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just sat still, like she was waiting for the phone to ring again. It didn't. Eventually, without a sound, she stood up and walked to her room. I braced for the storm. I thought she'd slam the door, scream, throw something. But instead, there was nothing but silence. And Rachel? She looked shaken. That night, Rachel and I sat on opposite ends of the bed like strangers. Neither of us said a word for what felt like hours. Then she finally broke the silence with a weary sigh. I never thought he'd actually turn his back on her like that. I turned my head toward her. Really? Because I did. She didn't argue. Just rubbed her temples like the weight of it all had finally settled on her shoulders. I thought I was protecting her, she said quietly. I figured if I kept things calm, if I just waited it out, maybe she'd grow out of it. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. No, Rachel. You weren't protecting her. You were enabling her. That hit her like a slap. She flinched. She had a choice. I went on. She could have had a dad who actually gave a damn. Someone who stayed. Who paid the bills. Who showed up every single time. I turned back to her, my voice level. But instead she spat on that. Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. Because I let her. And I didn't say anything to that, because she was right. Rachel had spent years making excuses, shielding Chloe from consequences, softening every fall. And now? Her daughter was stranded, emotionally and literally. And there was nothing Rachel could do to fix it. Tears welled up in her eyes. I should have stopped her sooner. I exhaled. Yeah. You should have. She wiped her cheeks and finally met my eyes. You were right to cut her off. And just like that, for the first time since we got married, Rachel saw it clearly. She didn't try to defend Chloe. She didn't blame me. She didn't deflect. And more importantly, she didn't stand in the way anymore. Over the next few weeks, things unraveled fast for Chloe. She got hit with an eviction notice. Tried begging her friends for help, but none of them picked up. She even reached out to her old job, but they wouldn't take her back. She was broke. Alone. Out of moves. And then, she cracked. One night, while I was finishing some paperwork in my home office, I heard a faint knock on the door. I didn't need to check, I already knew who it was. When I opened it, Chloe stood there like a ghost of the girl I used to know. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen and red. She looked smaller somehow. Fragile. Like the world had finally broken through that shield of arrogance. She swallowed hard. "Can we talk?" I leaned against the doorframe. "Talk about what?" She hesitated. Then, in the softest, most unrecognizable voice, shaky, unsure, almost childlike, she whispered, "I'm sorry." She inhaled sharply, like it hurt just to say it. "I didn't mean what I said. I was being stupid. I was selfish. I didn't appreciate anything you did." I kept quiet. "You were always there," she continued, her voice cracking. "You paid for everything. You treated me like I mattered. Like I was yours." She dropped her gaze to the floor. "And I treated you like you were nothing." Then she looked up at me again, eyes pleading. "I don't know what to do anymore. I need help." For a second, I just stared at her. For the first time in forever, there was no attitude, no entitlement, just raw, helpless truth. But me? I wasn't lost anymore. I had let go a long time ago. I sighed. "Chloe, do you know what a wallet does when it's empty?" She blinked, confused. "What?" I held her gaze calm and final. "It closes." And then I gently shut the door in her face. I didn't answer when she called after that. Not once. And she never tried again, at least not from her number. About a week later, Rachel's phone rang while we were having dinner. She looked down, her face tightening. "It's Chloe," she said. I kept eating. "You gonna answer?" Rachel hesitated, then slowly placed the phone back down and let it ring out. And that was when I knew she had finally let go, too. A few days after that, I got an email. It was from Chloe. "I know you probably won't read this, but I miss you. I was stupid. I see that now. I lost everything. And it's all my fault. I don't know what to do. Please, just talk to me." I stared at the screen for a moment. Then I clicked delete. No reply. No explanation. No final words. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't scream or retaliate, it's walking away without looking back. What happened to Chloe? She lost the apartment. Ended up in a cramped rental, sharing space with two strangers. Worked a minimum wage job, scraping by. Finally learning what it feels like to have nothing and no one. And me? I still had my house. I still had my career. I still had Rachel, changed, but still beside me. And the best part? I never had to hear Chloe's voice again.